In the human lands of Thetis, no figure is revered as much as the prophet Andraste, bride of the Maker. Her mortal husband Maferath the Betrayer could just as easily be said to stand amongst the most reviled figures in history. Together, they changed the face of Thetis almost as much as the first blight. Andraste's father was Eldorath, leader of a powerful Alamari tribe that controlled much of northern Ferelden and prospered greatly from trade across the sea, including with the Syrian tribes of what is now Orlais. Those connections led to Eldorath marrying Andraste's mother, a Syrian tribeswoman named Brona, to secure an alliance. Brona supposedly experienced a prophetic dream of her daughter's eventual fate while she was pregnant, and wept for the tragedy and betrayal that would befall Andraste. The precise time and location of the prophet's birth is hotly contested. It is commonly believed that she was born in 203 Ancient, the same year the first blight ended. The Orlesian city of Jader, along with dozens of villages in Ferelden, claimed to be the birthplace of Andraste, but the most credible is often considered to be Denerim, the future capital of Ferelden, which would have been a fishing village at the time. Perhaps one of the most enigmatic events of Andraste's life occurred when she was a child and involved her half-sister Halaser, born of Eldorath and a woman who served as his alchemical advisor. Supposedly Andraste saw her sibling following strange lights into the woods and followed after her. What occurred next is unclear. Andraste was found pale and confused about what she had witnessed. Halaser was found dead in a burned clearing, her body covered in horrible, inexplicable wounds. The Syrian blamed spirits or blighted beasts for the event. The Alamari blamed rival tribes. Andraste was left scarred by this event. A sickness of the lungs would trouble her for years to come, and left her too frail to bear children for a decade. She experienced moments where she would find herself unable to move and reported hearing voices and the sound of bells. Later in her life, she would frame Halaser's death as a matter of heresy, suggesting that her mother, the alchemist, had consorted with the old gods in some way. Maferath was an Avar, born in a time when that tribe controlled western Ferelden around Lake Calenhad. His father was Hagar II, and his mother was Thelois, each the leader of a powerful Avar tribe. From birth he was trained for rule and war. His youth was spent fighting rival Alamari tribes in the outposts of the Tevinter Imperium that struggled to maintain a foothold in the south after the First Blight. Maferath quickly developed a reputation as a skilled general and tactician. He is known to have had at least one close companion from his childhood, Havard, who he called the Aegis, for Maferath said he was better to have at your side than any shield. When Maferath's parents died of a common illness, he assumed control of almost all of western Ferelden with Havard as his second-in-command. When Maferath married Andraste in 187 Ancient, he created a unified border across the north of Ferelden and united the greatest of the Alamari tribes under a single banner. It would not be a marriage that galvanized the Alamari against the Tevinter Imperium, however, but tragedy. You see, as the Tevinter Imperium struggled to recover only decades after the end of the First Blight, and withdrew from the frontiers, its furthest flung outposts ran short of supplies, and local garrisons took to raiding the local populace. Eldorath was killed when a group of mages and soldiers seized an Alamari settlement in 186 Ancient. Andraste was captured and taken as a slave. This left Maferath as the de jure leader of the largest unified force of Alamari in history. In reality, most of this population owed their allegiance to Eldorath, and Maferath's ability to command their loyalty was tenuous without Andraste at his side. This is not to discount any genuine affection that Maferath may have felt for his wife, but securing Andraste's release was a political necessity for him. Upon Maferath successfully negotiating her safe return, Andraste went through a period of great introspection. She had long searched for answers to what she had witnessed in those woods with Halaser years ago in the traditions of her people, a search that expanded beyond those traditions as she witnessed the suffering of her people. Accounts say she suffered visions and more periods of immobility in this time. She shared these dreams of a god called the Maker with others. In a time when old faiths had been harshly tested by the devastation of the Blight, Andraste found a very willing audience. The Canticle of Andraste is one of the most disputed portions of the Chant of Light. Traditionally said to have been written by Andraste herself, there are actually dozens of versions of the text. The oldest version, considered canon by the chantry, describes Andraste's revelations thusly. Hear now, Andraste, daughter of Brona, spear maid of Alamar, to valiant hearts sing, of victory waiting, yet to be claimed from the steel-bond forgers of barren Teveen. Great heroes beyond counting raised oak and iron against chains of Northmen, and walked the lonely worm roads evermore, mighty of arm and warmest of heart, rendered to dust, bitter is sorrow, ate raw and often a poison that weakens and does not kill. Why must the shield of Alamar shatter neath bond and blade? To the wisest I sang, to the winged cupbearers of the tall sky vaulting, to the wintry halls of strong mountain kings, where in days forgotten voices there raised might be gifted answer and those seeking find. From sky-tearing peaks of the sacred mountain to secret-steeped roots of the ancient oak trees, a lonesome choir, I, song failing unanswered, voice on wind returning, answered no more. In heart's drumming I heard footsteps thundering, shield brothers and spear sisters distant raised, blade to shackle-bearer, valiant of spirit, blazing like starshine to battle they charged, none to return to the lands of their mothers, by cruel magic taken, ice, lightning, and flame. Should for all seasons laments ring the sky vaults, should dirges all sages and histories replace, by gods forsaken, fate emptied of hope, wounded I fell then, by grief arrow-studded, never to heal, death for me come. Eyes sorrow blinded, in darkness unbroken, there upon the mountain a voice answered my call. Heart that is broken beats still unceasing, an ocean of sorrow does nobody drown. You have forgotten, spear maid of Alamar, within my creation none are alone. Lo, my eyes opened, shining before me, greater than mountains, towering mighty, hand all outstretched, stars glistening as jewels, from rings upon his fingers and crown upon his brow. Sword-shattering fear filled me overflowing, grandeur of godhood no gaze should defile. Trembling I called out, Forgive me, Most High, I should sing your name to the heights of heavens, but I know it not and must be silent. The wellspring of all said, None now remember. Long have they turned to idols and tales, away from my light in darkness unbroken, the last of my children shrouded in night. Worlds fell away then, misty in memory, crossed veil and into the valley of dreams, a vision of all worlds, waking and slumbering, spirit and mortal to me appeared. Look to my work, said the voice of creation, see that my children in arrogance wrought. There I saw the black city, towers all stained, gates once bright, golden forever shut. Heaven filled with silence, then did I know all, and crossed my heart with unbearable shame. Then did I see the world spread before me, sky-reaching mountains arrayed as a crown, kingdoms like jewels, glistering gemstones, strung across the earth as a necklace of pearl. All this is yours, spake the world-maker. Join me in heaven, and sorrow no more. World-making glory, I cried out in sorrow, how shall your children apology make? We have forgotten, in ignorance stumbling, only a light in this darkened time breaks. Call to your children, teach us your greatness. What has been forgotten has not yet been lost. Long was his silence, for it was broken. For you, song-weaver, once more I will try, to my children venture, carrying wisdom. If they but listen, I shall return. Soon they began calling her the bride of the Maker. She taught her followers that her nameless God had wrought heaven and earth and filled it with his creatures, but his children had turned away from him to worship false gods. But if all sung as one for his return, the Maker would come back to save his children. As her following grew, Andraste herself became more driven, and her teachings less abstract in what the Maker required for their salvation. Tevinter soon became the target of her ire. All knew that the Tevinter dragon god of silence, Dumat, led the Darkspawn horde in devastating the face of Thedas. Andraste taught that the evil of the Darkspawn had been unleashed onto the world by the arrogance and greed of Tevinter, whose magisters invaded the Golden City, throne of the Maker, and blackened it with their sin at the behest of the old gods. It was those magisters that had turned into the first Darkspawn and corrupted Dumat. Her followers, already filled with rage for Tevinter after the death of Eldorath, were eager when she called for an invasion of the Imperium. Many chieftains, including her husband Maferath, were no doubt keen to push back the borders of Tevinter and expand their own territory. Nonetheless, Andraste's faith became a focus for the rage of an entire people, and Maferath knew how to use that rage to marshal the might of the Alamari behind him. And thus husband and wife marched at the head of the largest army of the Alamari ever assembled in 180 Ancient, in what her followers would one day call the Exalted March. Hey there, first video in a while. This is the first in what I plan to be a 3-part series. I can't give a timeline for the next one because my schedule is unpredictable these days, but I have about half the script written. The plan is to cover the rest of Andraste's story in the next video and then do a video about her children and general legacy. As always, let me know if there's a particular topic you'd like to see more of. In the meantime, I'd like to give a shout out to a game I think might interest Dragon Age fans, which is called The Waylanders. It's a party-based RPG with a combat style that reminds me a bit of Dragon Age Origins and is based on Celtic mythology. Former creative lead on the Dragon Age franchise, Mike Laidlaw, has joined the project as a creative consultant. At the time of upload, they're about 5 days into their Kickstarter campaign with $100,000 to go, so go ahead and back it if you like what you see. I'll leave a link in the description.